yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavill, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington got a late call, so he thought he was going to be in here, but he got called on that famous assignment. So he is doing what he needs to do. But let me say it appropriately. Welcome to episode 798 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab and radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small. From NEIA to the NCAA, we share insights and information from the information of HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics, to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. In short, we just call it the HBCU sports pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, along with my co-host, Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live to Case-Wade's 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer that is, in the beautiful home at Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. With that being said, let's bring everybody on board as we continue to move things forward. Let me get right to it. Charles, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. So we make the full-fledged switch to softball, baseball from the rest of the semester here. So
I like that for the rest of the semester. That's
good.
It is flipping. We'll throw in a little bit of track. Obviously, football news will be in there. We'll get a chance to do some spring
ball
updates, and people get excited about that. It looks like Jackson State has already put some football news out there in terms of scheduling. We might get to some of that in the news of the day. See if Charles would like to share that, maybe give us his thoughts on it even. So a lot of good stuff going on out there. We are closing on basketball coaching search, though. We'll see what that looks like, and it looks like we've added addition. I've tried to tell y'all, but it seems like it's official now, so maybe I can step back in the real world. 80 Drew, how are you doing today?
Man, I've been already into baseball mode, Charles. Obviously working on campus. You just kind of remember that, it's that time, but the good thing, once basketball season on the big boy level officially ends, that means I have less than 4 weeks left on my level. And to take it one step further, I got one more weekend series in baseball that I've got to play administrator for. So I'm really looking forward to the end of this thing now.
The beautiful thing is you don't have women's sports, so you don't have to worry about softball. So
no, sir.
You're truly closing out things in a unique fashion. So
no, sir.
So you can understand why you smile a little more today than usual. Good job.
Very much so.
Well, before we go any further, we're going to do this announcement, take a moment of silence, and take smiles off for a little while. Then hopefully we'll get back to smiling about some things that are going well about in terms of HBCU. This is in regards to Carrie Everett, former Miss North Carolina, an HBCU student that passes at just 22. This comes out of HBCU game day. Carrie Everett, she was the former Miss North Carolina and an HBCU student at North Carolina Central who broke new grounds during her historic reign, has died after a battle with a rare and aggressive form of gastric cancer. Her family confirmed that Everett passed away Monday morning. She was known across North Carolina and beyond for her grace, talent, determination. Everett made history in 2024 when she became the first Miss North Carolina to attend an HBCU, earning the crown while a student at North Carolina Central University, so you know a lot of pride was going on there. She's a Seattle native. Everett was a vocal performance major at North Carolina Central and planned to graduate in 2027. Her rise to pageant stage made her a symbol of possibility for HBU students, especially young women who saw themselves reflect in her journey. Quote, I can be the first, but not the last, end quote, Everett previously told CBS 17, quote, I want young women from all over the state and throughout the country attending HBCUs that this opportunity is for them. So let's have a moment of silence, sad news in the HBCU field, and we do that to honor her as she becomes an ancestor. As we get back into it, as I said, it seems official now. Johnny Jones has decided to take his talents, as they've said in some different frameworks, to LSU. It's home for him, so you certainly can understand. You know, financially, it's going to make a lot of sense. But now Texas Southern, that was part of the group of Texas schools with Prairie View A&M, with Prairie View finishing off this year to kind of gotten back to their range where we used to have this Texas two-step. People were not happy about that trip to Texas over the last 10, 12, maybe 15 years with regular season games and certainly in the tournament, no matter where it was. It seems a fixture that you're going to have Prairie View and even more so Texas Southern University. And you had Coach Johnny Jones win 3 straight tournament championships, which was even as an 8th seed 1 year, which is a precursor to what we see again this year in terms of 8th seed getting it done. But wishing Johnny Jones the best. He's treated us with much respect. Anytime we called, needed an interview or wanted some insight, get some information, had a chance to be a part of some of those magical trips in terms of the tournament. So really with a lot of respect, dignitary, thank him for what he did for Texas Southern University, and not only Texas Southern University, but for me personally. I know Charles got to know him as he started just the media side and covering him, and then got even a different framework when he was calling the games. So we got an insight in terms of how he was maneuvering games, his thought before, post games, and things of that nature. Very gracious Coach Jones. So I wish him the best. And obviously, he's stamped his ledger here at Texas Southern University in regards to what he was able to achieve. Any thoughts from your side, Charles?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't mention me on the golf course about my score. So that's definitely gonna miss that. But truly class act, a really funny guy. I've enjoyed my time around Coach Jones in terms of getting insight in terms of Texas Southern's basketball team as well as the game of basketball itself. So and especially how he has navigated this Texas Southern fan base. We talk football wise, we talk about football fan base, Jackson State, Southern Florida A&M, but Texas Southern has that same dynamic with regards to their basketball team. So just really understanding, how he has been taken in by this fan base. He's won for this fan base, and now he's getting an opportunity to go back to where he's from. So wish him all the best of luck.
Yeah, great point. With that, I'll stick with you, Charles, and go to you. What are some other news that you would be interested in sharing in terms of news of the day?
Oh, sure thing. And you alluded to it earlier, but Jackson State, they make football, they make a quality of life scheduling decision. This comes to us from HBCU game day.
That's a unique terminology, and I like
right?
The fact that they decided to go with that terminology this year. Good stuff.
Exactly. Jackson State is making a noticeable change in its early season schedule for HBCU football fans in Mississippi. The Tigers have announced that all 3 of their September home games will kick off at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is a shift from last season when Jackson State began both of its September home contests in the afternoon at 2 p.m. Central. So although it may sound like a small scheduling tweak on the surface, in reality, it can make a major difference for players, fans, bands, and the overall game day atmosphere at Mississippi Veterans Memorial Stadium. So I know I shared a little bit of it in our chat group, but just that Jackson State Southern game, that has a little something different when the lights come on. It's just a little something different. So it's gonna be fun to kind of get back to that again. That's a different kind of atmosphere.
That's funny because most of us on the outside that watch the game think it's pretty good already. And you said it adds a little something. I'd be afraid to know what that looks like.
A little more seasoning. A little more seasoning.
Yeah, exactly. And certainly know how to season your catfish over there in Jackson, so I can imagine. With that, 80, what direction do you want to go for some of your news of the day?
Just want to throw the comment on that also. While it is definitely good for the fans that with the 6 o'clock game. Obviously, and this is not just for Jackson State. This for anybody. Both day games, night games bring different sets of challenges. Obviously, with a day game, you've got the heat factor in September. That's always a factor. But when you go with a night game, you got the oil factor that tends to come in a little bit heavier with the night game. So just some of those things that people don't think about
Don't say it.
You get a full day of tailgating. Full day.
Full, it might be the proper word to use all that.
God, I love it. Great point.
uh how about this? So let's go off the beaten path. We're gonna talk about baseball and softball a little bit later. Let's go into track. How about the fact that the SWAC weekly awards? We don't do this too often. And we're gonna stick with the women's side. Chivalry is not dead. Uh Tanisha Elise, Shauna Lathan, and Anaya Hunt uh, won the SWAC weekly awards for outdoor track and field. Elise delivered a dominating for track. Elise delivered a dominating showing at the Leon Johnson Invitational, winning the 100-meter dash in a personal record 13.2. She also placed second in the 200 meters at 24.22 and, and third in the open 100 at 11.82, with her times in the hurdles and 200 marking personal records. In the field, Lathan was named Field Athlete of the Week following a strong performance in both the high jump and the triple jump. The senior cleared 1.67 meters, 5 feet, 5.75 inches to win the high jump and record a personal record leap of 12 meters. That's 39, 4 and a half to finish second in the triple jump. And the newcomer is freshman Hunt. She earned recognition for the hammer throw, discus, and shot put. Shout out to those people who do the hammer. I don't know how you can spin that ball around on that chain so many times without getting dizzy. But anyway, she plays fourth in the hammer, 46.76 meters. That's 153.5 for you people on the English system, not the metric system, which was fifth and sixth in the discus and the shot. Her hammer throw ranked second in the SWAC, while her personal best record of 47.7, that's 156 and a half, leads the conference and ranks 56th in the East region. All right, how about that, freshman? Hunt also posted a shot put mark of 11.49, which is 37 feet, 8.5 inches, ranking 12th in the league. So, I always tell everybody, baseball was my first love. Basketball was my favorite sport, but track is the one that I competed in the best.
Interesting. Great breakdown.
Edwin, that is a good question because it does not say which school these three athletes were for. Edwin put in what school were they with. I do not know, Edwin, so I advise you to go to swac.org because this is just in my notes and find the schools that these young ladies are with.
Good stuff. Good information. With that being said, I came across a Dr. E.B. Evans memoir, Down Memory Lane. And so I shared a little bit of this insight with Charles. So I won't really get into it now and talk about it, but doing some research and I'm finding some really good information about the founding of the conference that is updated from what we know. And I've been able to go back, and you've heard me read over a couple of weeks going back to basketball season when we were in tournament time, reading some history. So plan to do that. I've got a chance to continue to read into the Negro newspapers, black newspapers, we call them now, at the time, and obviously was reading from the Pittsburgh Courier. Well, now I've got a chance to do some churning and some artifact diving in the archives and found the Houston Informer, going back to when it was started, 1919, but some articles back as far as 1920, 1921 that I think people will find fascinating and interesting. I even got Charles going down the rat trap as he was just coming to pick up something quickly and ended up having to spend about 30 minutes to an hour in there just listening and reading over the stuff, and we went back and forth. But so much information, I can't share it now. So I'm looking at some different formats of how to get it out. But I'm really excited about what that possibly could look like in terms of that information. So I did want to share that out there and give that. For those that do not recognize the name Dr. E.B. Evans, I certainly understand. He was the first president after he was formerly the principal. But before that, he spent time as the director of athletics of Intramural. So that's where you get into some of the information. Shout out to brother Frank Jackson that shared this information with me. I've come across it, but this is a chance for me to take a dig in where I actually got a copy of it to be able to really take that time and read through that. Charles, what was your thoughts, at least? I know we want to get into it, but what were your general thoughts with some of the things that we were covering about the history when you were in the office earlier today, and even entertaining me as I drove home to kind of give you a jump start on it yesterday?
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's almost as though you sort of discovered a holy grail type document, So it's going to be very fascinating when you do present it. But I was kind of blown away, and it kind of changes the trajectory of some things that we previously knew.
Yeah, great way to explain it. And so extremely excited about that. And it's hard for me, and it's probably even going to throw some of the great historians that are out there over the years. It's going to catch them and be like, I didn't quite know that. So, well, enough of a tease there. Like I said, at the appropriate time, when we get into finishing some of this academic time, you know what we do, probably in the summer, the dog days, as they say, when we get away from being able to give you sports updates and some thoughts beyond business, we'll add those kind of things. So with that, let's take our first break. We're going to come back on the other side, and we're going to unveil for the first time. It's week 4 I've been doing this, but now it's time to put it out there. We're going to do a mid-major, major division softball, top 5 softball for HBCU programs, and see what these gentlemen think about that. And so we'll take a deep dive and let you know from our perspective who are the top 5 HBCU mid-major programs, and then in our follow-up segment, we'll do the major division program. So we'll see if this correlates with what many people out there think. You kind of know what some of these teams are in terms of the divisional status, but we'll see who we think is number 1. We'll be right back after this first break.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
And we have to fund our compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Without further ado, let's get into the mid-major division for softball. Drew, I'm kind of excited about this. I know some of those folks are probably a little nervous in terms of what that looks like. Nobody dropped out this week. We do have some changes in the poll since I've been keeping it myself. This, again, is the first release, but it's week 4 since I've been taking these notes. So we'll start it from there. We do have a couple of teams receiving votes, so let's go ahead and turn and get into that thought process in terms of receiving votes. Receiving votes, none other than Clark Atlanta Panthers that sit at 21-14. That's 12-9 in terms of what they did in the conference race. So a lot of good work in terms of what that looks like. And then you also have in terms of Edward Waters, the Tigers sit at 19-15, 10-8. Also receiving votes in terms of the top 5. But let's get into it and see what the top 5 look like. Dominated, I will tell you, by the SIAC, but we're going to start in the CIAA. Claflin Tigers, 14-11, 5-1, 32 points, are in 5th place. Interesting seeing that they are the furthest southern, if you would, CIAA team, and fascinating to see that they can play some softball in that area. Then we finally step out of the Division II. The only non-Division II program, NAIA program, is out of the HBCU Go, which is the Dillard Blue Devils, 16-10, 13-2, 39 points, and they are in the 4th spot. Let's get into the 3rd spot where we get into back to the NCAA Division II, and we also enter the SIAC territory where it seems the softball rounds supreme in terms of our top 5. We started with Savannah State Tigers sitting at 20-12, 11-7, 43 points, and they sit in the 3rd spot. Number 2 is Albany State Golden Rams, 26-14, 2 first place votes, 59, ranked number 1. You do have 2 divisions in softball for the SIAC, so you can get into some of that conversation. But what's unique about this is the number 1 team, Tuskegee Golden Tigers, that sit 24-7, 15-1. They have 5 first place votes to just 2 first place votes for Albany State, 67-59 points, and they climbed to number 1. They were previously number 2. They had the head-to-head matchup with Albany State not too long ago, and they got the best of them as Golden Rams were rolling. But they showed that the West over there is nothing to be played with. Golden Tigers put it down. With that being said, go with you first, Charles, to kind of get your thoughts, and then we'll let AD chime in, being over there with the mid-major guru, as we like to call him, particularly coming out of the SIC. We'll let him kind of show up and show out after you give your thoughts.
I think the one that jumps out for me is Tuskegee at number 1. But the big thing is, pitching really can control things. When you take a look at what Tuskegee has done, especially on the mound, 2.19 team ERA, 7 shutouts on the season for Tuskegee's pitching staff, and is led by Monica Rose. She's one of the top pitchers in the SIAC, but she comes in, she has a number 1 in the SIAC, 2.09 ERA, and then also Camia Hampton, 2.36 ERA. She sits at 4th. So Tuskegee's pitching is really carried the day for her.
They played some good softball of late, and they seem to have carried that tradition. And right now, they're sitting at the top. 80, Drew, what are your thoughts in terms of the top 5 programs? We got a mixture. It's heavy with SIAC, and they're heavy at the top. You do have a NIA program out of the HBCU AC. Claflin out of the CIAA represents, at least for the CIAA teams. Fascinating when we talk about HBCU. This is not one of the Texas teams, even though we heard a little talk about maybe some more Texas teams going to HBCU AC. But we'll get to that when we get to that in terms of expansion talk. But regardless of that, what are your thoughts again, AD Drew, on the top five?
Let's start off at the top with Tuskegee Golden Tigers. It's interesting with Tuskegee coming in at 24-7. I don't know if people realize they actually lost 3 of their first 4 games that they played coming out the gate this year. Take that opening weekend away from Tuskegee, and that really tells you the type of run that they have been on. Their lone conference loss is to the team that trails them in the standings, that being the Spring Hill Badgers, who are always a contender in the SIAC. Just like SWAC, the SIAC divisional play, they stay in divisional play, except SWAC, pay attention, they do have a crossover that they do.
I like that.
Pay attention, SWAC. But other than that crossover, they stay all their conference games or within their division. You may get somebody who does an occasional midweek that doesn't count, but so that 15-1 record is very, very impressive. Albany State doing a similar type thing on their side. Now, I don't know when Savannah State decided to get back into the softball business, because Savannah State has not been a traditional power in the SIAC. Same thing with Dillon. I'll tell you who was shocking that I don't see on here, Dr. Cavill, is Stillman has been a power the last couple of years on
Yes, they have.
the AC, and they're not sniffing your poll. They're not even receiving votes, which is kind of surprising. I still don't understand what the hell the CIAA does with their softball schedule. I don't think anybody understands how they schedule with their regular season.
And they scared.
When they schedule, you'll see they'll play a doubleheader Saturday against one team, and another doubleheader Saturday on Sunday against another team, and then they won't play again for another 2 weeks. I don't understand it. All I know is sometime in the next couple of weeks they're gonna pop up on us and tell us they got a tournament and gonna crown a champion. Anyway, what I always find, and we'll see how this happens, although you have 2 SIAC East teams in the polls right now, Dr. Cavill, and I was talking about this with somebody else today. I cannot recall ever when you get to the Final Four in the SIAC tournament. I won't say ever, but normally, when you have divisions, you always compare: is it 2-2 or is it 3-1 for one side of the conference or the other? When you get to the Final Four, where in softball for the SIAC, it's always 3-1. It seems like for the West side, which are powers of Tuskegee, Spring Hill, and Miles have been the traditional powers on the West side. And there have been some occasions where it's been 4-0 by the time you get down to the Final Four. And we were really trying to recall a time when it was even 2-2, let alone 3-1 in favor of the East. So that's what really makes this really interesting, that there are 2 East teams in your top 5 to start off with. Let's see what happens in 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, when the SIAC tournament comes along.
Some great breakdown in terms of some historical footnotes in terms of teams moving around, changing, and some new teams with some old teams in the mix. Great information, great breakdown as well. Fascinating to see some key matchups this weekend. Keep your eyes on some good softball. As you said, in terms of the SIAC, there's only 2 weeks left before we get in the tournament. And you know what happens with that tournament magic or madness, depending on what side of the dirt mound you are on. But with that being said, let's take our next break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into the major division to see what your thoughts are in terms of what's going on among those teams in the major. That's MEAC, SWAC. Independents are struggling a little bit, but with Tennessee State haven't won a game this year, Charles. So they're struggling much. But let's take our first break and come back on the side and get about the superlatives and look at the top 5.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement, a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have none other than one of the greatest pitch hitters out there of all times, 80 Drew.
I can't get a call up to the bigs, Doc.
Yeah, you in the bigs now. You in us. You in the bigs. Trust me.
I'm tired of the September call up. I want to make the opening day roster.
Yeah. You gotta talk about that. You probably should have been on that opening day roster. You missed that opportunity. I don't know how the GM blew that. Charles, aren't you sitting in the GM shit?
I know, right? We might well go ahead and call AD on up. You know how they sit the hot prospect in the first 2 weeks of the season, then bring them on up.
So I can be 1 year further away from arbitration. I know the tricks.
Yeah, I would blame that on the GM, Charles. I'm putting that on him.
Yeah.
The thing is, you're not one of them hot freshmen. These hot freshmen. We gonna elevate you there. You coming to the bigs. Doing overachieving. Like you are. But let's get into the softball for the major division. I'm excited about this ranking. We get in a little bit. Just outside of the top 5. In fact, we did have a team that dropped out, which is Texas Southern Tigers, 20-10, 9-6. They were top 5 coming into this last week when I was doing the rankings. They had a tough series with Southern that we told everybody to keep their eyes on. Well, Southern got the best of that and are solidly in second place, which pushed Texas Southern Tigers out of the top 5. Let's see who's receiving votes. As you can imagine, Texas Southern Tigers didn't drop too far. In fact, they're outside of the top 5, 20-10, 9-6, as I said. South Carolina State Bulldogs are 13-13 overall, 8-3. In terms of what they're getting done on the outside looking in, playing some good softball over there in Orangeburg, if you would, South Carolina. But let's get into the top 5 and see what's going on there. We do not have any independents, I will tell that now, but we do have a sighting from MEAC. And in fact, we have a couple of MEAC teams. It is SWAC heavy, but a couple of MEAC teams are in Knicks. Starting out with number 5, which is Norfolk State Spartans. They sit at 18-13, 8-4, 68 points. They were not ranked, but after a good series last week and what happened at Texas Southern, they find themselves in the top 5. It'll be fascinating. Can they hold on to that? Can they continue to play some good softball and get this going and get into it? Yes, Brian, let's see what the voters think in number 1. I know you're very fascinating to see about this. You told me about the East Division, and it sounds like the voters, I will give you a little heads up that they know a little bit about the East Division. We'll see how heavy that is. In fact, let's get into number 4. Number 4 is a SWAC in the side of the West Division. I got you, Brian. Southern Jaguars are 24-12, 10-5, 73, ranked 4 in terms of what they did last week. In terms of the rankings there. They are fascinating. They had the big series with Texas Southern and took them out. Bringing us to number 3. One of the teams with the better records is Prairie View A&M Panthers, 19-14, 11-1, as they are controlling the Western Division as they still play in divisions for softball. They had a matchup against Texas Southern 2 weeks ago. And after losing that Friday game, came back and got the doubleheader on Saturday. And then they did what they were supposed to do this past weekend and got sweep. So their only loss is to Texas Southern right now. They do have 2 first-place votes, 80 points, but they remain in the 3rd position regardless of that one loss in conference play. Bringing us to number 2. MEAC decides to jump in the softball business, and you have the Howard Bison. 19-13, 18-1, just 1 conference loss, 3 first-place votes, 82 points. And Howard is having a great year, as you see, but they're getting it done in terms of what they look like for this. Bringing us to number 1. Florida A&M Rattlers, 22-14, 13-2. They are playing some tremendous softball, as you see. 4 first-place votes, 84 points, and they are ranked number 1. We'll see what that looks like. G-Boom says, hey, you need to recognize that Prairie View has 4 wins, which is solid. It's probably why they got those 2 first-place votes, but they need to do some things to get some other folks right. Brian says he believes this sounds about right. So it sounds like I'm doing something right. G-Boom is not excited about it. It's interesting that one is a Rattler and the other is a Panther. It should fall out that way. But with that being said, I'm going to start with you, AD Drew, and then we're going to let Charles show out as he is squinching. And so I'm sure he has something to say when he talks about it and see what that looks like in terms of the rankings. Go ahead.
Doctor, I'm looking at this poll, and until you pop Prairie View on the screen, it was starting to almost look like a basketball poll again, Dr. Cavill. I just wanted to put that out there on the women's side. So, Prairie View basketball women did not have a great they didn't even register on the radar this season. For the conference. But anyway, I digress because the women are definitely making up for it in women athletics, showing that Prairie View does support women athletics with their softball. Only 1 loss. Interested that the 2 teams in the West, mid-major and major, only had 1 loss in their division. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Is that a product of the lack of parity, lack of competition in the West for Prairie View? Or is that just the dominance of the Panthers? We'll find out. And too bad we can't find out by seeing them play an East team as they continue, and we'll probably continue to beat up on the West. Howard having a great season. Howard just doing the doggone thing on the women's side. Looks like they are probably about to do the double and win basketball and softball there for the Bison. And but my Rattlers, oh my God, in the competitive East, they are once again showing that their dominance. maybe this year, FAMU, we can actually see it through and not give it away in the tournament. Regular season championships are what they are, but there's only one path to the big dance,
That's true.
and that is through a championship. So hopefully Florida A&M can handle it, and maybe this year we can see FAMU and Prairie View actually face off in the championship game, since they look like they're going to probably be the top two teams coming out of their respective divisions. That's going to be the key.
Now that would be fun. Charles, where are you with the major division for the softball top 5?
Let me follow up on something AD said. The competitive SWAC East. What is it that I missed? Jackson State not even in the top 5, 10-3 in conference play, 19-14 overall.
They in which one? They're in the what?
The competitive SWAC East.
So that means they should be. That's what your point should be. They should be somewhere in this top 5.
That's the point I'm
which
making.
means it's very competitive over there in the East.
Yeah.
There are good teams that are not represented in this top 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of thrown off. I thought they would.
Don't mention me, mention the posters.
Okay, that's all. I was curious.
I know how competitive the East is. I know it's not on the screen.
Votes, and I was like, wait a second.
And just to be sure, Charles, that's not your Jackson State bias coming out. That's just actually the fact that Jackson State has good data points, correct?
They got great data points, and actually, if you talk to a lot of Jackson State people, I don't have enough bias.
I will say that. They're probably in the mix in there just outside of the top 7, 6.
But I agree with Charles. Jackson State should be in that receiving votes.
Who would you bump out?
Southern.
Which with you, Drew?
Oh,
I said in the receiving votes portion, but Charles said Southern. I might go with Norfolk.
Charles, you were gonna say Southern? Go ahead.
Either Southern or Norfolk. I think either you can make a good argument that they should at least be in the top 5 somewhere. So that's my low hanging fruit down there, 4 and 5. So one of those, at least Norfolk State would have to be bumped.
Let me get you some of these data points. This is where I love folks that you got to go beyond the conference record a little bit. FAMU and Howard played twice this year. They split in terms of their matchups. South Carolina State and Jackson State happened to play. Jackson State unfortunately lost that game 4-7. So I want to give you a couple of data points in terms of what that looks like. Didn't have a matchup in regards to Southern yet, so we'll see if that'll happen in the tournament. They did play 2 teams out of the West, to your point. They beat up on Alcorn 15-5 as well as Grambling 10-6 to give you some of those early data points. And they played Alcorn twice again since then, or at least one of them with the 5-3 victory over them. So I think you make some excellent points, but I did want to make sure that you looked at that a little bit in terms of some of those data points. Drew, you have some other points you want to make? Howard has done what they're supposed to do in terms of a couple of SWAC teams, including, as I said, against FAMU. Yeah. Go ahead.
Here's my thing, and here's the thing with the East, Charles.
Mm.
All right, round 1 of the SWAC tournament, East, West, 1, 4, 2, 3, etc., etc. Tell me this, Charles. Honestly, don't you think at least 3 of the East, if not all 4 East teams, it would not surprise you if they beat the West
in the
opening round of the SWAC tournament?
Right.
Last 2 years, you hadn't even had to have a guess. So it showed out in the tournament. That's one of the things that Brian was so excited about the poll ranking. He pointed out last year in terms of how the East dominated the West. So,
right, and that's why I say about how competitive that East is. Even right now, if the tournament was to begin today, Alabama State would be facing Prairie View in the opening round. It would not shock anybody on here if Alabama State was to take Prairie View down in the opening round. Alabama State is sitting fourth on the east side with an 8-6 record right now. It would not shock anybody.
I think it would shock a couple of people.
Take
the 3 seed.
Take your school colors off, Dr. Cavill.
I think the 3 seed, you're right, it gets interesting when you get into that. But the thing that's challenged about the tournament in softball play, when you really get to the tournament, is you don't a pitcher coming in that game. It's almost like the baseball matchups. Even though you get a 1-4, that ace is an ace, and they can beat anybody. So it's
Especially
when you get a little deeper in there, when you get in that second and third pitches, bullpen, when you get deeper in the tournament, I think is where the depth, where you talking about the talent of the East being deep, I think that's where it shows up more or less than that.
Except in softball, you could get away with only having 2 arms in softball. In baseball, that's going to buy you maybe 1 extra day. But in softball, you can really get away with only having 2 arms and make a deep run into the tournament, especially if you stay out of the losers bracket.
Right, and I think you certainly need 2 arms to your point, but I think you also need to have the ability to put the ball in play. Like we've seen this with Texas Southern. They can pitch really well, but they can't hit. So they'll lose a game 2-1, 3-2, right? Because they couldn't put any runs on the board. And that's where I'm talking about where you get in terms with the pitchers, where you need to have somebody that goes late in those games oftentimes, because those games are 1-0. They go deep in the game. It's a play here and here, bang, bang, where you get it. I think it's when you start getting those games and you see how much 1 or 2 pitchers have the dexterity, if you would, to be able to go multiple games in a row. Although you're right, I think if you have really talented pitchers along with some key hitting, you can get away with playing in the tournament. It'll be interesting, and that's really where it gets good. One thing you do have fun with the SWAC is when you get to the tournament, you get to see that SWAC versus East matchup and get to kind of play those cards. So it'll be interesting. I think we got what we wanted to do. There was some conversations, certainly some controversy. Some people liked it. Some people were shocked. And we'll see what that means for Jackson State. They did sweep the last series against Bethune-Cookman, which is a big statement, and continue to do that. It'll be fascinating. Hope softball follows baseball conference schedule next seat, where everyone lays each other.
I think it's supposed to be plays
each other. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's the coaches. I don't think the coaches, particularly in the West, I think there's some challenge with what they see as the cost associated with softball side of that. Because softball on the East was interesting. Softball originally went to 3 days. They would do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. West said, no, we're not doing that. We're going to continue with our Friday, Saturday doubleheader. And now, in a lot of cases, you see the East has went back to that. So I think there's a little more cost constraint that you see from softball, and they're interested. So it'll be fascinating. Can you get enough coaches to push it? But what I'm hearing it's not so much ADs. It's mainly a coach's decision that they like the division format for softball.
I just
don't like what you're talking about with volleyball and softball. You might see some of that coming out, some changes in terms of scheduling in the fall. I've heard that being some nuances there. So we see that. He said it's scared.
It's funny. We started talking Florida A&M softball. All of a sudden, O&G just started showing up out of nowhere.
Charles, I know you're not gonna play with all these Jackson State folk in this chat right now. I know you're not calling us out. I know you're not calling us out. Hey, Doc, you better take us to break before I say something.
Yeah, let's go to this next break before we lose control of the show. We'll be right back after this next break. We're gonna talk a little bit more about baseball, some of these key matchups to take the. We'll do the rankings, as I said, on Thursday, so look forward to that, mid-major and major division. We'll also get into this Trump executive order and see what's out there in the landscape, see what these gentlemen think. I'll give you some thought process and what I'm reading, what I'm hearing, and just general some business perspective of what that looks like. Let's take our last break. We'll come back on the other side, and we'll do just that.
For over 30 years, HBCU Image has been more than just an apparel store. We've been a movement. a statement, a legacy. We celebrate the pride, the purpose, and the culture that make historically black colleges and universities legendary. Whether you're a student or a lifelong supporter, our gear lets you wear your HBCU story with confidence and style. Because when you wear an HBCU image, you're not just wearing clothes. You're wearing culture. You're wearing pride. You're wearing purpose. HBCU Image, a Kenny T's company.
From cancer care to accidental injuries to cardiac care, we all know that there are times that you can't control what happens in your life. But with Globe Life Family Heritage, you can be prepared to weather the storm when it comes. Call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com. With over 25 years of serving communities, Dr. Beverly Eagles Rogers is here to help you and your family through difficult times. Dr. Beverly takes pride in Globe Life being one of the few companies that returns 100% of premiums to clients that stay healthy. So for more information, call Dr. Beverly Eagle Rogers at 877-300-8269 or visit the website at globelifefamilyheritage.com.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavill with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Let's get into a little more talk and sneak in some stuff on baseball to get your thoughts on some of these key matchups, what's going on this week in terms of that side of the house, if you would. Always fascinating about those key matchups. Let me pull it up real quick. And we'll get into some of the analysis and those players that are really doing big numbers. We'll get into that more on Thursday. I wanted to kind of save that until then. But as you start looking at your Friday series, we have a rivalry matchup where we get Southern Grambling. That is in Grambling. Grambling is always a tough place to play for me. They're playing really good baseball, but this is a series that Southern gets a chance to maybe make a statement as they've been floundering right around that 500. Can they get it done? And then you have the Alabama series with Alabama State and Alabama A&M. This one is in Huntsville. Alabama State is not where we thought they usually are, but played better in terms of what they were able to do last weekend, getting some key wins. Then you get Arkansas Pine Bluff that's been playing well of late. They travel to Prairie View that is struggling. You have Alcorn on the road in Houston at Texas Southern that is hitting the cover off the ball and now seems to be able to do some pitching. You got a FAMU Jackson State matchup. We talked a little bit about here how fans think about that matchup. That may be exciting. That is in Jackson, Mississippi, always a tough place to play. And then you have Bethune-Cookman going to Mississippi Valley State. You would think the Wildcats shouldn't have any trouble there, but you never know. Valley is playing 600 ball right now. So this is the game that tells us how far they've come in terms of this year. Can they keep them close? Can they sneak out one? Which I think would be a big statement in itself if that's the case. Charles, where are you going in terms of some of these key matchups this week?
I think Florida A&M at Jackson State. I think that's a big matchup for Jackson State. Jackson State have lost two of their last series. They lost a series. Bethune-Cookman lost a series to Grambling. Just from a psyche standpoint, it would be good to get 2 of 3 against Florida A&M at home. So that's going to be a series that I'm paying attention to. I think both Bethune-Cookman and Texas Southern have a good opportunity to continue their upward trajectory in terms of getting some teams at the bottom of the standings this upcoming weekend. So I think they'll continue to do what they do. But obviously, the big one is, I think, Southern Grambling.
Good stuff. Good stuff. AD Drew, where are you in terms of your thoughts in terms of some of these key matchups before we get into this talk of this executive order?
And we're talking baseball, correct?
Yes, baseball. I'm sorry. Yep.
Yeah. Obviously, anytime Southern and Grambling get together, it's always something to point out. Florida A&M, Jackson State, definitely one. But Dr. Cavill, don't know what's the one I actually want to point on is one that's going on right now, Dr. Cavill, and it's a non-conference matchup between Bethune-Cookman and LSU. That's going on right now. I'm just curious to see where Bethune-Cookman ranks as far as his matchup against one of the top teams in the nation, Dr. Cavill. So yeah, it's a lot of good matchups going on, but non-conference, and just give everybody an update at the top of the second inning. The score is tied at 2, Dr. Cavill. So this is actually the matchup I want to keep my eye on, because this is a good barometer, especially if Bethune-Cookman repeats as SWAC champion, on where they can measure up when they get to the NCAAs.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Great points in terms of that. So let's get into this a little bit here. President signed an executive order on college athletic transfer rules. We've heard it the last couple of weeks when he had the meeting up there, amongst the other things that he's dealing with. But he decides to take on college sports, and he said he's going to fix it like he's fixed a lot of the other things, I guess, depending on where your perspective is on that. But it says President Trump's full executive order has been published and will go into effect on August 1st. On transfer rules, calls for a return to one-time transfer rule with the ability to transfer again once graduating. Participation is limited to a 5-year period with limited exceptions for military service, missionary service, and other periods of absence from participation that are in public interest. The executive order calls for transfer windows of not incentivized interference with athletic season on the academic or otherwise undermines the integrity of participation and competition in college athletics. Obviously, it's longer than that, but those are some of the key things. NCAA chimed in, and they said executive order has been signed limiting NCAA athletes to 5-year eligibility, 1-year transfer without sitting out. The order will go in effect later this year. Violating schools could lose federal funding. The NCAA calls this a big step forward. Nick Saban, your favorite coach, says he thanks Trump for jumping in, as he now says that this is a win-win and the greatest thing since sliced bread, that now college athletics is fixed. Charles, you don't seem like you're too convinced that it's fixed. But so go ahead and share some of your thoughts.
I mean, like most of his executive orders, they're going to have legal challenges that somebody's going to shoot holes through. So I don't expect any different with this. So I really have not put a whole lot of stock into what he's attempting to do, because obviously he's normally a well thought out person. So that's probably all I.
Thank you for sharing that. As get your composure in terms of laughing. Yeah. Where are you with your thoughts on this?
Uh, there are actually a couple of things in this executive order that I actually like, believe it or not, y'all. But I'm gonna get into the roots of it and where I've got my opinions on. Let me tell you about a couple of things that I do like on this. Uh, Medical care for athletic related injuries. I think that should be a given. Uh, I could definitely go with that.
But it doesn't tell how long that lasts.
Right. It
And
needs to
that's
go
some of the
further.
stuff
But
that the
that's a good step
judge.
one.
No, I just want to finish that. I know it's in there, but I just want to clarify, like you said, because sometimes they'll put stuff in the executive orders, and if we're not careful, they actually the judgment that they settled with the House settlement actually had that in a judgment or settlement. That doesn't change anything.
Right. But as a POE, I guess is that's what you want to call it, Dr. Gaville, point of emphasis. I'm glad. I mean, the framework. I like that framework being in there. I also like the something else that may go up under the radar, and that federal fund cannot be used for NIL payments. For what I saw with this, I actually think that is, you know, we should be using grant money. The other thing, the NIL payment should be coming from revenue generating sources, media, other things like that. Just a couple of things that I do like with it. But yes, there will be some challenges to this. But let me tell you where this executive order really comes from. In my opinion, it comes from the people in Indiana, Indianapolis to be specific, some of these conference commissioners, some of these athletic directors who let the genie out the bottle, who let the toothpaste out the tube, and cannot get control. So they got the ban at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue to put stuff out that they don't have the balls to put out or scared to put out, don't want to put their names behind it to try to bring this, to try to put some type of control on it. Because the moment that you find out that your school may be behind it, if I'm a 18, 22-year-old student athlete, all right, scratch that school off my list. They still want these kids to come and compete, but after the indentured serviceship that we have had with NCAA athletics for over 100 plus years, and then the free for all that it has become over the last couple of years, we got some people who just don't realize what they did, and want somebody else to solve the problem that they could have solved themselves with some intelligent conversations, and not being, and when I say solve themselves, if you would have woke up and realized where this is coming from, and that these student athletes were right when they're saying you guys are profiting off their name, image, and likeness, let's sit down and come up with a mutually beneficial thing. So the pendulum has swung from the institutions all the way to the other side, and now Mr. President, can you please help us swing this thing back towards the middle? That's just my personal opinion on why this legislation came the way it did, and from where it did. This is a lot of stuff that you have seen frameworks of from the NCAA that has gotten shot down by the courts and other people. Maybe I'm wrong. Just a man in Atlanta, Georgia, putting out his personal opinion.
No, I appreciate you sharing that. There are some things that I do want to make sure that we level set with this, because we oftentimes get in this framework where, like, the NCAA is this boogeyman.
It's the president. It's the president.
Yes, they control it. So I want to make that extremely clear that NCAA is just a governing body. It's like when we talk about the SWAC office. The president's chancellors ratify, make the rules, make the updates. All the NCAA does, or the SWAC office does, or any conference office does, Big Ten, SEC, is they have rules on it. You notice that the folks that were at this meeting, half of them are not even involved in college athletics. They had pro athletes there. So I think we need to really take some time and think about it. And the other thing we need to realize is executive order is not law.
Right.
So it really doesn't mean anything. And people say that it's just paper. Those lawyers that are out there that understand this, they will tell you. They had stuff out there asking athletes if they have any problem with anybody telling them transfer rules, because judges have made the rules of why the NCAA is following it. So the NCAA is just a sheep. And obviously they had to make it look like they're paying attention to Trump or a lot of this. And you see people like Saban that don't even coach anymore. I don't know why he's so worried about this. Do your stuff on TV. Get the hell out the way. You made all the money off the back of the athletes and you're rich beyond pleasure. Now it's time to go away, go smoke your pipe. You didn't want to do the real work out there when things changed, got hard. So somebody that I at least gave some appreciation as a coach, now is just another one of these folks that I'll be like, man, you just a bubbling mouth. And you just talked a lot of game and used folks for your benefit. And now you have a chance to allow them to make a difference. The other thing is be careful about the NIL. It says nothing about the NIL. Don't change name, image, and likeness. That's the legal standard. He talked about this transfer rules and things of that nature. And again, this does not work unless Congress gets together. And that's what they've been begging for. They couldn't get Congress, so they took the next opportunity and were able to talk the president, which it seems like a lot of folks are able to talk. Even other countries are able to talk in making decisions. For this country, doesn't necessarily make sense. So I have some really good quotes that I like out here. As you had a few coaches called asking what the order really meant. What did it really say? What does it really do? The coaches wanted to know what changed. The answer, at least for now, is not much. Unless Congress acts or courts uphold it, it doesn't mean anything. So I just want people to be extremely clear that they get it all up in the tether because he decides to put pen and paper and he has a little press conference about executive order.
Means nothing.
And at the time, he doesn't have the authority, and anytime he goes to the courts, it gets struck down.
Yep.
The other thing is you had a GM. He is quoted as saying, it's just going to lead to more lawsuits and BS, end quote. He even said that when he had the meeting with the folks that we'll put something together, it's going to go to the courts. But I don't think so. Then he said, well, it's probably going to go to court. It changes absolutely nothing to me. The coaches were like, what do you mean? It's an executive order, but it doesn't do anything. The most powerful man in the world issues something, and you're like, well, ever. That's what this sport has become. It doesn't mean a thing in the paperwork. So until this goes to the court, which it will, you have lawyers out there that already says that this is against the legal precedent.
All right.
And it will fall. So Trump has did what he wanted to do, get some attention and act like he fixed something that some people would say wasn't really broken in terms of that, unless you are the type of individual that says that you want control of individuals that are generating a lot of the profits, more so than you ever had before. And furthermore, you talk about the financial state. College interest is at its highest peak ever. So it's not hurting in terms of financial viewerships, ticket sales in terms of interest, bowl games, all that stuff is out the roof. So there's no problem there. Yeah. Although everybody thinks the sky is falling, financially it's not hurting anybody in those things. And it's not help sponsors. The other issue that we came up with that I think is an opportunity to get into this, which is a little off of this, is where I told you the real battle that is happening here is between those billionaire boosters and the presidents and commissioners and athletic directors of who has control of the financial monetary value. You saw this on level 10, 15, some people would say, when you had the literal arguments, which we starting to see is a thing now that people go to social media and make these arguments with the Big 12 commissioner and the booster who happens to be a board member of Texas Tech, when they were literally reduced to calling each other names, fighting over whether a Friday night game should be played, particularly, and a lot of interest talked about whether Texas Tech should be able to throw tortillas on the football field.
Say that again.
Yeah, exactly. You have a billionaire that couldn't get Congress to act, but he did get Trump to act. And part of that is because he says he wants to talking about the SAVE Act, save college sports, but he can't even work with his commissioner of the Big 12. Says that he's not running things, that Texas Tech run things. And part of the argument is over whether television contracts should be enforced, and Texas Tech, as a member of the conference, should play Friday games. And the other thing is he's upset in terms of them being fined on whether they can throw tortillas on the field. But the problem is with college sports. Yeah, man, come on. Y'all let these folks entertain you all in ways that you all should be much more well-read and take your time to really take a deeper dive and understand what's really going on around you in terms of athletes. And for the most part, this doesn't have any real leverage in terms of HBCU sports, in terms of our entertainment value. But thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We hope you enjoyed the show. Again, we thank you for listening to Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back. I should be on the road, but 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We'll give you the latest news in the lab. We'll see if another executive order to fix college athletics is written, even to improve what was out there. We'll see if we can get that in short order. But I think there are some more important things that we may want to consider out there. Shout out to A.D. Drew getting on here and doing the production work, sharing his perspective along with Charles. We look forward to Thursday and discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, as Threads, Facebook, Instagram, DrKenyattacavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Facebook, Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube. Dream big, continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Horse.
AD?
Lecture.
Dismiss.